Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best.
Grant, just wanted to talk a little bit about trading deadline, because we dabbled a little bit about it. But when you look at it overall, could you really see a team that really bettered themselves?
We got to find out. I mean, maybe Paul Gaustad is the centerman that Nashville needs. Nashville got Andre Kostitsyn, too, underachieving in Montreal. Now he's with his brother, Sergei Kostitsyn, in Nashville.
Two negatives equal a positive.
Maybe under the Barry Trotz with Shea Weber, Ryan Suter calling the shots there. This guy might blend in. So maybe Nashville, Mike, they got what they needed.
Let me ask you a question
about Nashville. Maybe Vancouver, like I said, added pieces to the puzzle that they needed. And maybe the teams that didn't make any moves were smart, and maybe they'll make the bigger moves when the season's over.
Let's talk about Nashville first of all, Grant. Two reasons. They had to make some moves, and they had to get bigger and tougher.
Well, they got Hal Gill on defense.
Yeah.
Who else on defense? They got Andre Kostitsyn and Paul Gaustad
on the last trading deadline. Plus, they have a great goaltender, two great defensemen, and when I'm seeing all this stuff, the first thing that comes to mind, they're getting ready to impress those defensemen and all the free agency that's coming up, because they're going to have to, if they're going to keep them, they're going to have to write some pretty big checks. And B, they're preparing for the Vancouver Canucks and the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
The West is going to be a slugfest this
year.
Yes, it is. It is. So I think they're manning up, and I really like what they've done. You got to remember, Nashville never did spend money, Grant. They wouldn't be doing this a couple of years ago.
Somebody did say, though, a few years back, Nashville did something very similar. They went and got Peter Forsberg at the trade deadline or around about that time, and there was somebody else, too, another name they got there. So they tried to load up, and it backfired. I think they lost in the first round or something like that. So you've seen it before, that teams, hey, they got the pieces they need, and it just destroys the room or does something, and it backfires. So who do I think was the biggest winner? Hard to say. I mean, didn't Boston add Brian Rolston, another veteran? Boston added somebody else, too, did they not?
The guy from the defenseman from Minnesota.
Yes.
Greg Zanin?
Zanin.
Yeah, and then they also got...
So they got some help.
Another defenseman, Mike Matto from
the Islanders.
From the Islanders.
And Rolston from the Islanders. So I guess the average guy is saying, those guys are no good, but you're the Boston Bruins. You don't need a lot of excess talent. You need depth.
Yeah.
So maybe they got better. So to say who's winners and who are the losers, I don't know. And then I guess LA Kings did add Jeff Carter.
Yeah. I think they got the best of the deal.
I think so, too.
I think potentially they do. And I think really they could be, if they make the playoffs, they could be a very dangerous team. I mean, we've seen it before where a team just sneaks. Look at the year Philadelphia made it, to the finals. And what happened to them? They were a shootout away from being eliminated, sneak in the back door, and then just run over everybody.
Phoenix Coyotes have really impressed me in their run right now. I think they're one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the NHL right now. Why didn't they make any trades? I guess because the NHL calls the shots there. They kind of own that team and do the purse strings. I wonder if they were privately owned, if they had a real owner in Phoenix, because they're doing so well, you would think they would add some pieces to their team, but they were probably handcuffed by their owner, Gary Bettman.
Feeling the winter chill? Call the experts at Simply Yours Windows and Doors. Get the job done right, on time, and on budget. Their number one concern is your comfort.
When you look at it, Grant, in the old days, Glenn Sather would have been puffing on that cigar, and the fact that Rick Nash was available, he would have just opened the cupboard and said, have at it. But I'm kind of impressed that they didn't do that, because they're a pretty solid team. They got John Scott, a tough guy from Chicago. So I would think going into it, they have to be the favorite to win. And they didn't make the big moves.
Yeah, you're right. I think, first of all, for the Rick Nash deal, did you see what they were offering? Or it's rumored that Rangers, I think Eriksson was in there. I think Dubinsky was in there.
One other prospect and another who escapes me right now. Four players.
But no surefire can't miss guy.
That's right.
And that's what, so I credit Scott Housen, the general manager for Columbus, not pulling the trigger and accepting that, because it's too much of a risk. If you're going to trade Rick Nash, you got to get one or two surefire players. Again, just like the Flames did when they traded Joe Nundyk, they knew they couldn't miss with getting Iginla. So I applaud the Columbus Blue Jackets. They did the right thing. They'll still trade Nash because of the Nash allegedly coming to them saying, I want out, and there's going to be a war, I guess, going on.
Do you not think there'll be more value to that in the summertime than right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Because you got everybody involved, not just the contenders running for the playoffs.
And teams like maybe Vancouver Canucks wants Nash, but won't trade Corey Snyder, the backup goalie right now, because they know they need him for insurance if Luongo craps the bed in the playoffs. So therefore, maybe when the season's over and the Canucks or more teams will be in play.
I'm laughing out loud at listening to them analyze the Vancouver Canucks situation. And
you're so anti-Vancouver.
Well,
Mike.
I am, but
you're so anti-Vancouver.
I just don't like Vancouver. I just don't like.
That's a good team out there.
It is, and I think they're going to be there. They could win it all this year. But the thing about it, Grant, I was listening to everybody talk. Said, well, what happens if Luongo gets hurt, and then we need another goaltender in there. All you have to do is look back at last year to see what the hell happens to Luongo. If it wasn't for Corey Schneider, they wouldn't have had a chance. So, yeah, you can't trade that guy. That was the smartest thing Vancouver did, not trading Schneider.
Getting off topic, making this longer than you probably want or Brent Stanley wants. However, you're saying Vancouver will be there. Yeah, probably, but Nashville came very close last year in the second round from knocking them off. I think Nashville's a better team this year. So how do you predict? It's so precarious in that I think St. Louis could knock them off this year too.
It's going to be interesting.
No.
I'll tell you one team that I don't think will be anywhere sniffing near the hardware this year because they have fallen right off the map.
Chicago?
Well, them too, but you never know with Chicago. San Jose Sharks. I mean, they are brutal on the road this year. Everyone for the past 5 years.
They added some sandpaper guys out of Colorado, Dan Winnick.
Yes.
Dan Winnick and the Calgary
they
kid,
got three
TJ
guys.
Gagliardi, who I kind of like from Northeast Calgary.
Three guys from Colorado that they think will help them. But that's the kind of chemistry they need to get back. Because last year, I was really disappointed with how San Jose played against the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I agree. They have fallen down, aren't they?
3 points from being out of the playoffs. Spot. Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
Enough said.
Yep.